Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm here to talk to you about the Star Wars movies and their connection between the comic books that are coming out now from Marvel, which are very, very interesting. What I'm going to be discussing with you is definitely going to have some spoilers in it, obviously, and I'm going to be discussing something called Canon. If you're not familiar with what Canon is, it's basically what the backstory is. There's tons of backstories you can find in Star Wars things, with videos and with books and comic books, of course. So canon is something you need to understand. So what I have here, this is old Star Wars comic books, older. These are not canon anymore, okay? And even though this is Marvel on my one hand here, and Dark Horse in the other, which had an amazing run. These were a little funny and weird, the old Star Wars ones, but they're classics, right? But these are no longer canon. So what we're looking at now that is canon is things like these, the newer Marvel comics that are coming out. The Star Wars one here came out right when the newest of the new trilogies came out. I think it was 2005 or something like that. So these are canon. And some of the stories in these are very, very interesting. This one, for example, leads right into the newest movie from all the trilogies. So the new trilogies, this one leads into it. This leads into the whole deal. And this one actually comes in after A New Hope. So there's all kinds of little stories that are going on in there that we're missing. Some of the things that bummed me out about the newest movie, The Rise of the Skywalker, was that there was things that they didn't include that I kind of felt a little miffed about. I really wanted to see more of the Sith Lords that were in there, of course. There were so many of them. I like the darker side of things. I would have liked to seen the Force Ghosts in there. I could go on for a few things. I did like the movie. It was very entertaining. One of the other things that I really wanted to see, and you probably agree with me, is I wanted to see more of the Knights of Ren, and I wanted to see more of Ben Solo and his fall to the side of the dark side. I didn't get the whole connection with him. I needed more. I needed to feel for him more. So luckily what they've done, luckily for a guy like me, and maybe you, is that they've come up with the side stories, the backstories for Ben Solo in comic books. And this is fantastic, this series right here. This is The Rise of Kylo Ren. This is the first issue, and I just picked up the second issue yesterday, and here it is here. It's fantastic. Some of the stuff, the stories that they show, this one in particular has Ben Solo on a mission with Luke, when Ben Solo was probably, I'd say about 10 years old, so he's really little. So I'm getting that connection to Ben Solo out of the comic books. And I love comic books. I've liked comic books longer than I've enjoyed movies, to be honest with you. Alright, so one of the newer comic books that I'm really enjoying, and I just mentioned, was The Rise of Kylo Ren. Some of the stuff that's in there is very helpful, especially to a guy like me. So they show Snoke when he is in better condition. He's not as beat up, and he's actually dressing nicely. He has a garden. I don't want to ruin too much of the comic book, in case you're into picking it up at some point. As I say, they're just at issue number 2. Number 1 is going for quite a bit of money. Well, not quite a bit. Like, you can probably get it for between $7 and $10, I'm thinking. It's worth it if you're a comic book fan. So some of the stories in there are amazing and really filling in the holes that I needed. Interesting fact, small spoiler, is Ben Solo didn't destroy the little Jedi Academy that Luke had there in the new movie. It wasn't Ben Solo that did that. I'm not going to tell you who did. Pick up the comic book. If you know, we can discuss it below maybe. That series is amazing. That is one that I would highly recommend. There is a new Darth Vader one coming out that I recommend too, which is going to lead me into what I want to talk about next. Now, the Darth Vader series that came out a few years ago, I don't think they don't put dates on the cover anymore. This is a little older, but you can get this in a trade paperback, which means that you can get the whole thing in one book, like the series or half of it, and it won't go up in value, but you can also like beat it up and do whatever you want with it. I don't beat up my graphic novels and my trade paperbacks. I'm not psycho, but you could do whatever you want with them. But this series, this Darth Vader series, is amazing. Some of the things you'll see in this series right here, small spoiler alerts, is Darth Vader. This is fresh off of A New Hope, where the Death Star has been blown up by a mysterious young Jedi. Oh, the Jedi's back, right? So what Darth Vader does is he sends hires Boba Fett to go find out who the pilot of the Millennium Falcon was. So we have, and this crosses over into the Star Wars comic book as well. that is out around the same time. So what he does is Darth Vader secretly hires Boba Fett to find out who this young Jedi pilot was. And at the same time, Darth Sidious, Palpatine, is just treating Vader horribly because of the explosion of the Death Star. And Palpatine knows that he let them go and get away, right? Like if you've seen the movies, you know he let them go to follow them and find out what was going on so they could blow up the planet they were on. Everybody knows this information, hopefully. If you don't, you got some watching to do. So he's treating Vader horribly. He puts officers on him to tag him to watch what he's doing. He tells him flat out, you failed. It's because of you that the Death Star blew up. And he's treating him horribly. So you actually feel for Vader in this series. To further move on to the confrontation from Boba Fett to Luke Skywalker is in this series. It came out around the same time. Now, this is the variant cover for this one, so you may not see this cover, but in this one here as well, this is a Luke and Boba Fett scrap it out in Obi-Wan's old hut or house. Wow, huh? And that's all in the comic book. So this is all this information. This information is gold for Star Wars fans. So if you are a Star Wars fan and you are not reading the comic books, hey, maybe you should start, because it's a really great opportunity for you to learn little things behind the Star Wars lore, and possibly some information, if you're like me, that you were really missing from the movie, the newer one, all the movies, in between. I shouldn't say the movie, from the series. Okay? I want to thank you for tuning in and watching. If there are ads on here, skip them. I'm not doing this for the ads or any kind of revenue. I don't have a lot of people in my life who like to discuss comic books. And I really, really, really do. And I love Star Wars as well. So give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe it. Skip the ads and stuff like that, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time.